Check
Hello.
one.
Mic check one, two.
Check one. Just use Sibyllus. I think.
It was check one, two.
Hey, there we go.
So, okay,
Okay.
right. That should
All right,
have
let's share the
been.
screen again.
Yeah. Okay.
And B-ball, nice. I forget
My
your
phone's been
stuff in
stuck too much.
Spanish. Nice.
So sorry about that. Guys, we literally went through like a third of the presentation.
Now, so what I was actually saying was disability justice is messy, and part of the process is accessibility checks, making sure that everything is working.
I'm sorry.
We're just checking the message.
Just trying to check the messages. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back to the screen because we got some time to make up here. All right.
Okay. Yes. Ahora sí.
I'll
Yes. Ahora sí. You need to practice with this.
entiendo. Yes, now. Okay, so to demonstrate again accessibility, this is something that I do at the beginning of every session. And I give thanks to our director, Dr. Amy Kenny at the Disability Culture Center at Georgetown University. I'm a white man with blonde hair, a little bit of a beard today, and a blue button up with blue eyes.
Okay, now I can do this better. I'm a black woman with a white cap, gold earrings, long hair, and a red jacket, and glasses.
And glasses, and glasses. And we do this because we never know who's going to be attending or who's going to be watching the video or listening to the video later. We've already demonstrated the accessibility check because that's so important.
Yeah.
And then the accessibility invitation. This is also something that you could do in your classrooms, where if you are having, you need to stim, you need to move around, you get antsy, or maybe someone you're at home and you need to, take care of your kid. Someone's yelling in the background.
We've all had
We've
that.
all had take care of your business. Please take care of yourself first.
Love that. All right, so welcome. Finally, I'm like taking a look and I'm like, all right, people are logged in. We're doing this, we're doing this. So we are going to be talking about seeing the whole student, race, disability, and belonging in the language classroom. I am one of your speakers today, Allison Perryman, and I'm introducing my guest speaker. Oh, go ahead, you can introduce
Wesley Wood, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, I was talking to the people, but yeah, we've also served on a committee for over a year now.
This is going to be a little bit of a comedy show tonight, so welcome.
So, you want to do the first one?
I do thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Move beyond today. Today, let's set the table. Today, we're going to move beyond separate lanes to see the intersection of race, disability as a core year-round component of the language classroom.
As a second goal, we're going to, I think the word master is doing a lot of work here, but master practical facilitation tools, and that's going to include a resource vetting checklist and classroom language moves, so facilitation moves, so that you can start to begin to see ableism spotted and racism in our curricula and also in the classroom in general.
Very nice. I'm going to unplug my speaker so that it doesn't revert back to that. Okay, great. Also, finally, we're going to ensure that we are centering disabled Black joy. I love that expression. Agency and dignity without tokenizing, which basically is treating someone as a symbol of inclusion. So hiring someone and, making them the representation of their race or ethnicity.
Or disability status.
Or disability status, right? Because that's my lane. My lane is a lot of times talking about race, ethnicity. And so Wesley has really introduced me to another side of everything, which is disability and accessibility, which I wanted to share with all of you. So we don't want to rely on the overcome narrative. We want to change the script.
Yep, absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So welcome. You can say welcome.
Welcome after all that.
There we go. There we go. All right, don't forget that at the end, we will be giving away freebies. We're going to have about, I think, 3 freebies tonight. I'm going to do the number thing. You email me if you guess the correct number. Now I have a witness for the numbers.
Yep. So it's not rigged.
Yeah.
I will make sure justice is important to me.
I'm so glad that that's a core value of yours.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So you have to stick around and let's lead into who we are. I'm Allison Perryman. I'm a self-professed cultural curator and educator, and I'm an entrepreneur of the cultural classroom. I've been a teacher for what feels like forever. I'm sure, holler at me in the chat if how many years you've been teaching, and what language you teach. I teach Spanish. I did study Spanish, French, and Latin to some degree. And yeah, I went to UPenn, went to Middlebury, and we met at the actual DI committee membership thing that we do, but also we did a lot of conferences together.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Axel.
Mom, mom, a lover of culture and visual description.
Oh, that was just in case we forgot to do that.
Got it.
I don't trust myself, so I always put in reminders.
That's nice.
Yep. So, as I mentioned, my name is Wesley Wood. Currently in Maryland right now. I work at Georgetown University. I'm a disability specialist, and we just renamed the title to accessibility coordinator. I'm also a consultant for schools and, as you mentioned before, a language educator. I taught K-12 as young as second grade, Latin and French when really needed in the COVID times, in public, private, and charter schools. I've studied Latin, ancient Greek, French, a little bit of German, a little bit of medieval Italian when I used to work in rare books. Got my bachelor's in classics from Notre Dame. Uh, my first master's MAT from Miami University in Foreign Language Education, second master's in classics from University of Colorado Boulder. Mentioned currently working disability services. What that means is I work with students to help them get their accommodations for academics, for dining requests, housing requests as well. And we also work with facilities to make sure that everything is accessible, such as elevators, and which is always a constant battle. And we also work with mentoring faculty members too, to make sure that their classrooms and curricula are as accessible as possible, leaning into universal design. Always have to mention this, even though it makes me uncomfortable, because I'm from the Midwest. In 2022, I was the GWAFL, so the Greater Washington, D.C. area Teacher of the Year. And I was also from NECFL, a Meet Innovation Fellow for work in neurodiversity and advocacy for students. Um, Also, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee member with Allison, and I'm a brother of a sister who has studied Irish Gaelic, which is really cool to me.
That's the fun
Yeah,
fact. I
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. I like
yeah.
that. So you're qualified to talk about this.
I would say I have learned a lot. I've been in my position for 2 years, did a lot of advocacy work. Before that, what I want to emphasize too is that you all, who's ever watching or listening later, you are the expert of your lived experience, and you know your students best. And so you might, if we have time for questions, you might hear me say it depends a lot, because
Yeah.
it really does depend on students' context, your context as well, what school, what type of support you have. But really, I just want to emphasize that I really believe that you all, as educators, are the experts who just want more support and researces.
Yeah,
And so that's our role.
that's so true. As a classroom teacher, that's how I feel.
Mhm.
So we're going to go through this presentation, do the work. We're going to post it afterwards.
Mhm.
So if we skip through some stuff, we've got you. So take a look at this.
Yeah. So this is a piece of art. It's actually a wall mural. And this is our attention getter, our hook for tonight. Want to give about 10 seconds just to have you take a look. For visual access, I'll describe the image. There are a series of images of a young black boy with, I would say, shorter, little curly hair.
Yeah.
And there are a series of 5 images, kind of ranging from blues and like even like a little bit of pink and purple. And the boy is doing standing up against a wall. There's light shining up against his face in one. There's something I could only describe as psychedelic and
Ethereal.
ethereal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And even in I guess it looks like a Snuggie, but we're not sponsored by Snuggie, so I'm not going to say it. Um, and so that's also an example of visual description for accessibility. And really the idea is, we, as you all are looking at this image, you have your own thoughts about why we're showing this. But if you were to show this to your students, what do they see?
Hmm.
What do they assume? And so we're actually going to come back to this later. This is artwork that is photography and artwork that was done by a disabled and neurodivergent Afro-Latina woman who is an artist. And this is her tribute to her son, who is autistic. And she is celebrating autistic joy and specifically autistic Black joy. And so that this is sort of going to frame, I think, the rest of the presentation that this, what we're talking about is disabled joy.
And I feel like that conversation of Black joy
Mhm.
and disability, Afro-Latino joy and disability is something that gets lost. That's
Absolutely.
not the pictures that get put up,
Mhm.
or representation, or even stereotype of what we have when we
Absolutely.
think of
And,
disability.
just the way that, where I grew up, as a white man, this is, white boy, but not white man, you know, you would not say the word black. It would be whispered. We were joking about this earlier,
Yeah.
right? And also the word disabled. You can't say that. You can't say that. You
God
can't say
forbid you put them together.
yeah.
All
Let alone that, right? Mm-hmm. All right,
right.
let's move on. So tonight we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into the idea of disability. And just hearing that, everyone watching this or listening has a different connection to disability. Everyone does. And it's so wide ranging to say disabilities can be apparent or non apparent, right? And whenever we're in a classroom, I think it's so important for us to always assume there is a student with a disability there. Even if you don't have a 504 plan or an IEP yet, we're going to talk about what diagnoses mean in terms of privilege and also the intersectionality of race and disability.
Mhm.
But everyone has different comfortability. And for some people, they're hearing the word disabled or disability makes people
Makes them
uncomfortable
uncomfortable.
or
Yeah.
nervous or like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And we're going to try to navigate a little bit of that tonight. But I think we have to first start off by just acknowledging disability is not a bad word. It is not a bad word. And when we use things like euphemisms, differently abled, handy capable, things like this, it is dismissing what people's lived experiences are.
Right.
And also, in my work, I do think in relation to, say, disability law, the word disability is enshrined in law. People have fought for those laws, so I recommend using that word. But when we use euphemisms, it's just further stigmatizing that experience when there's no reason to, right?
Yeah.
And so the more we're able to talk about disability in positive ways and just acknowledging it as a reality of life, if we, you know, have the fortune of growing old, we will all become disabled in some way. That is a reality of life. And so, before we move on, I do think it's important to talk about the different models of disability because some of you may be familiar, but I know in talking with hundreds of educators over the past several years, many people do not know this. Probably the model that most people are familiar with is the medical model,
Yeah.
where a disability is something that's bad. There's something wrong, something's broken, it needs to be cured or fixed, and often is portrayed as a tragedy, right? And in media, we see this all the time in movies, TV shows, stuff like that, the personal interest stories on the news. It's
Hmm.
always this overcome narrative. I would describe it also as like that sort of inspiration porn type of idea
Hmm.
where you were just, oh, I need the feel good stories. Oh my gosh, they did this. We're like, but why are we portraying them that way?
Yeah.
Um, we are contrasting this with the social model, also now known as the social justice model, where the issue is not with the person. You know, are there disabilities that are very impactful on the person? Yes. Are there things that are really, really hard? Yes, but that is their reality. they're not broken. It's the environment and society that's not inaccessible. And as we mentioned before, disability is just a natural part of human diversity. So is the issue that the person is a wheelchair user, or is the issue that the building does not have any ramps? Or is the issue that a student is deaf or hard of hearing and therefore can't do the listening section on your exam?
Mm,
Or we don't have captions in there, right?
right.
And then this also, especially in K-12, really plays a huge feature. This really plays a huge role in terms of retention of students,
Right.
because in my experience, I had so many students with disabilities taken out of my classes.
I'm
For
sure you guys can relate to that too. Every time I look down, I'm looking at the chat just so you
Yep,
guys know. And so I'm sure you guys can relate to that. If anytime you want to comment or you have a question
please.
about what's being said, just jump into the chat. Like
Yep,
have it open. So I got some like years of service and school stuff, so that's
yeah,
pretty cool. But for turning back to what you're saying, it's almost like it would be better to have the things in place instead of assuming that a student needs to request to need it. So
yeah,
ha the things that we can do in
yeah.
place, like captions and
Yeah,
things like that.
universal design. And as much as possible, it actually allows people in disability roles, disability services, or K-12 special educators, it allows us to really focus on more intensive needs.
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, a lot of times the mentoring that we do is, oh, your text, like it's a scanned PDF, right? It's just a horrible copy. It needs to be typed out, right?
Right.
These are sort of basic things. I shouldn't use the word basic. That's a little judgmental.
It is a little judgy.
Yeah, it's a little
It's a
judgy.
little
You can
judgy.
tell I've done a lot of remediation work lately, but these are, I would say, foundational steps, right? And we're all coming at it for
Foundational. That's
foundational.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all on parts of this journey, especially in terms of accessibility, but also diversity, equity, and inclusion. And before we dive in as well, just a quick acknowledgement about the power of language. I had
Mm.
mentioned about the euphemisms, right? But also sometimes people don't know about, is it a person, should I say a person with disability? Should I say a disabled person? When in doubt, just let the individual tell you, right? So in my role, whenever I meet with a student, I follow their lead. There tends to be, I notice in K-12, more of a person first approach, and in higher ed more of an identity first approach, but I don't think that's a rule. I just an observation I've made. So like say for myself, I would view myself as a person with a disability, but just in for me where I am in my journey, I don't view myself as I would not describe myself as a disabled person.
Right.
Now that might change in the future, as you discover more about yourself and that type of thing, but it's very individualized. Let's respect the wishes of the people that we're serving.
Right. Right. And a lot of us have these invisible
Yeah.
disabilities. I myself do. And I prefer like living with
Mm.
what it is because it's not taking over. It's just a whole mental game that I'm playing with myself. But I appreciate it when people respect that language back. So
Yeah.
just a little,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
Black Girl
Absolutely.
Joy.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now, this is really the core of, why we were doing this session
Hmm.
tonight is this idea of intersectionality. And I believe it was, who was the researcher? Kimberly Crenshaw who coined
Uh,
this?
yeah,
Yeah. Um, where people's identities, specifically of minority people in different minority groups, don't just exist in one minority group. And
yeah,
that people can identify in many different spheres, and that
yeah.
then compounds in the way that society puts that pressure on people. So, what is it, how hard is it being a black person? What about a black woman? What about a black disabled woman? What about
Well,
a
let
black
me tell you.
Right. So, this is then that acknowledgement of the acknowledgement of the person and their experience. So whenever I meet with a student, you know, I think it is unrealistic to say, oh, I'm not going to see you in any other way other than your disability. That really, your background, your culture, your upbringing determines everything.
Right.
And especially too, this is just a reality. And especially what I've noticed in the work that I do now in disability work, it is a social economic thing where having a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis, is a privilege. It is a
It is
privilege. Getting a
because it's very expensive.
I was about to say a neuropsychological exam can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, especially if you want to, get a more intensive one, give you, as much results as you need. Um, and that's where I'm grateful at my university. There are different programs available for students who are first generation college students, low income students, and they can apply for grants to get those tests done, which is really
That's
cool.
really great.
Yeah. So it is about trying to, come around to understanding where people come from, but also acknowledging, I think, the erasure of certain people. So
Hmm.
a lot of times if you look at media and talking about disability, it seems to be very white
I mean,
and
I wasn't going to
Eurocentric.
say it. I wasn't going to say it, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you look back at things like movies that have been made and things like that. Great films, often the overcome narrative, which is interesting.
Yes.
But also the question then, just like any form of diversity, equity, inclusion work, where are different individuals from different backgrounds?
Didn't exist.
Well, that's the narrative that is being perpetuated.
Exactly.
And then that begs the question for us in what language context, what narratives are we perpetuating? And especially too, I would say as a teacher, when I was teaching, I taught for 7 years. I felt like I was ignoring those stories, because it
Hmm.
felt like too risky or something like that.
Hmm.
And I wish I had, someone to talk to at that time about it. So as much as possible, talk to your colleagues. And, ACTFL has different resources available too. They have neurodivergent educators, a special interest group, neurodivergent educators affinity group, and a disabled educators group as well.
Which I have hyperlinked, like one of the actual groups in this presentation, but once you get there, you can kind of look around. But I did want to say that I think, and what I respect a lot is that you're reflecting on your work as a teacher and how you could have changed it or
Mhm.
what biases you have. And that's something that I love talking about with
Mhm.
teachers is reflecting on like your schemas, your biases, and things like that. So
Absolutely.
good job.
I appreciate that.
It's okay.
Well, and
Everybody's
and that's
something.
the thing too. It is important for us, as educators to give ourselves, I'm sorry to say this phrase, to give ourselves grace, but I think that's overused phrase.
I have
But
nothing to say about
yeah, I
it.
know. But I do think it's true though, because the most important thing is serving our students who are in front of us, and seeing who they are, because their needs are going to be different from year to year. And that's why I stopped using the phrase special needs. They're
Hmm.
just
There
needs.
just
They're
needs.
just needs. They're just the students' needs. So this, and I appreciate, Allison, what you've been doing this whole past month for Black History Month,
Thank you.
giving us these different pillars, for us in our lesson planning and things like this. And as we were talking, we realized taking all of these pillars and we're just adding that disabled identity to it,
Yeah.
centering disabled Black joy, agency, everyday live life, overcoming, getting, excuse me, moving beyond the overcome trope, using authentic resources by disabled Afro Latinos and other groups as well. And rather than the resources speaking about them, I think that's so important,
Yeah.
particularly with the disability context, because we want to amplify voices. And then the same thing too. This is particularly interesting with the way that disabled people are portrayed. We want to show people going about their day, not
Living a normal
yeah,
life,
but it's
quote unquote.
quote unquote normal life. And, it's not this idea that I'm going to ignore your disability. I see your disability and that's who you are. That's part of your identity. It would be like saying, I don't see your color, right?
I also feel like it's kind of like, and we're not going to do a focused unit on it or end of
Hmm.
chapter
Yeah.
add on this one time the whole year because it's the week of blah blah blah, whatever it is.
Yeah,
So that's why I
absolutely.
appreciate this whole spreading it out throughout the units,
Hmm.
the year, and just making it normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Destigmatizing, I would say.
All right. I
Yeah.
had a word before, now you have a word.
So then just to bring it back, we saw this. I wanted to then show you this is the artist, Jen White Johnson. And she is Afro-Latina, I believe Puerto Rican by heritage.
Mhm.
And, she has a website. You can explore that. Look at all the exhibits. I'm in Maryland, you're here in Virginia, George Mason University is just down the way. She had an exhibit there that she was featured in. She's also featured in the African American Museum of History,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I guarantee you, if you start looking around wherever you're, located,
Based, yeah.
wherever you're based, you can find examples of disabled art, disabled joy, and also I would say too, looking for different intersectionality, like different identities with it as well. Because for her, she was talking about what it's like to be a Black disabled woman, and
Right.
specifically, even more, an Afro-Latina.
That's a lot. That's layers.
Extreme,
Yeah. But
extremely.
everyone has layers.
Yeah.
So,
And what's great is that, in this artwork that we were looking at, you can just simply talk about this Nino, right? You
yeah.
can just talk about this boy and getting the students, and you're not really talking about, oh, he's overcome this, overcome that.
Right.
That's not what the artwork is about.
Joy.
It's about joy,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Mhm.
I got you. I got you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. So then this comes back to the idea of what about world language? Because as I mentioned before, so many students are not given access to a world language education. They
Mhm.
are not given the same opportunity as others. Or if they are, it's in a reduced context.
Mhm.
And sometimes they're thrown into classes that are just not, for lack of a better word, worthwhile. It's, somehow the standards have been dropped when we should be, as educators, raising and school administrators, stakeholders, we should be raising our standards
Yeah.
for accessibility.
In my experience, sometimes students are not level appropriate if
Hmm.
they are in the classes. So they might be able to accelerate faster, but because of the stigma that they have, they're put into a different class or advised to put into a
Yeah.
different class.
Yep. Absolutely. And so the other thing too, I would say is world language is often the last thing thought about in terms of
Absolutely.
accommodations or just accessibility, let alone what we're talking about tonight, which is talking about disability,
Yeah.
right? We can't even consistently retain disabled students in the world language classroom. So we're going to be talking about, the ability to allow students to see themselves in the curricula.
Mhm.
Do we even know who's in our classroom and who's missing? And that's that idea of belonging.
Who's
Who's
missing?
missing from the classroom? Hmm. Absolutely.
That was a good one.
Okay. So what we've done is try to compile some things for you. And I think it's important to start off by saying as far as we can tell, because we were trying to look around, there's not many resources available about the intersectionality of disability and other identities, particularly in a world language context. If you have found things, please share them in the chat, share them wide.
Uh-huh.
It'll also be great to share with the actual DI committee. Because there's I forget what it's called, the Actual Central, the hub,
Hmm.
where people can post resources. That's a great place to post those things if you have them. But for
And you
you,
can put, oh, sorry,
go ahead, go
sorry.
ahead.
You can put them in the chat or you can email us. We'll provide our email addresses at the end of the presentation. Also, remember there's like the giveaway at the end. So just reminding you guys.
Yep, absolutely. So, what about if you're on your own, especially if you're a team of one, right? That's a reality for so many teachers.
That is.
And there's just a lot of pressure. What can you do? That's what we want to do. That's what we want to show you next.
Okay.
So, once again, going back to what you've been giving us for this whole month, I do think the plug and play template really works here,
Plug and
right?
play.
Where you have a hook, you're using a photo, a video, song snippet, um, and we're going to talk about, how what voices we're trying to amplify, what scaffolding you can do, making that connection with students,
Mm-hmm.
right? I do feel that when it comes to disability, people are hesitant.
Yes. Or
And
squirmish, squeamish.
yeah, just a little like hesitant, like, I don't know, what if I say the wrong thing? I don't want to get in trouble because there are a variety of disability laws involved. And so there is that added pressure. However, I do think we're at a point in our society where we are ready to start pushing. And that is the final step is acceptance, disability
Right.
acceptance.
Because it's the reality of
Yeah,
the world.
absolutely.
And again, we have the disabilities you can see and the disabilities that you can't see. And
Yep,
so,
absolutely. So this is all absolutely true, the plug and play template. What's going to follow right now is some additional parameters that I would recommend. The first being this resource vetting checklist so that we can, just as you mentioned before, center people's dignity and avoid tokenism.
yes.
And I think what's going to be very helpful is, this could be a great department-wide initiative too, where if you want to take a look at all of your materials and see what is actually going on. Do you have disabled people portrayed in your books, in your novels? Can we go to
Hmm.
the next slide?
I wasn't sure if that's what you were doing there.
Yep, I was subtly trying to point.
Oops.
So there's three, I would say, checkpoints that you could do. The first being the sort of everyday test. We had mentioned it before. What is the person doing, right?
Hmm.
And I think of the boy, Jen's son, and he's just living his best life. He is having fun. He's playing with the lights. He's just doing his thing. He's in the Snuggie thing, whatever that
Yeah.
is. That's everyday activity. Or is it actually just reduced to the medical diagnosis or a hospital visit or, they're trying to overcome something? I do think there is a place for that,
Because
but,
that's a reality as
and that is a
well.
reality, but I mean, same thing as you were talking about with the afrodescendente.
Afrodescendientes.
I'm learning Spanish, thank you.
Yes. He's doing
It,
well.
yeah, so it's important that we acknowledge history, but also we just acknowledge people for who they are. So that's the first test you can do. The other is agency. How much autonomy do they have? How much is their voice represented? Are they telling the story? Is it third person?
Mm,
Are they sort of saved, pitied? Are they, like, once again, inspiration for a non-disabled, non-black protagonist?
right.
And there are several novels excuse me, novellas that I can think of in these little the CI readers and things where, sometimes when we're talking about identity, where it's like, "Hmm, I don't know, this is kind of interesting, like why it's framed that way." And I would think if that we are talking about disability, I would guess it's probably not as, autonomous,
Hmm.
right? And then the final thing is the language check. Does it use affirming, accurate language? Or does it rely on the outdated euphemisms, right? If I had to guess, most resources are just avoiding the topic entirely, right? Because it's
Yeah,
easier.
it's easier that way.
It's easier to just avoid it. Um, so if there are publishers out there looking, independent story writers, I think that's a courageous step to start incorporating disabled stories or to perhaps amplify someone's story.
Some ideas.
Hmm.
We love that.
Now, one of the last things we'll talk about, because I know we're coming up at time,
Hmm.
is okay, you've taken this step. You're going to, show the hook and that type of thing. But what happens when a student inevitably says, you're a middle school teacher, I've taught elementary, middle, and high school. A student inevitably is going to say something that everyone else is going to go,
Yo, miss, what's happening there?
yeah, yep, exactly. And you as a teacher, are you going to be prepared to handle that? Right? So what this is here, and we'll give this also at the what did you say, the next 24 hours or so.
Yeah, yeah.
This can be as a resource too. So let's just say we show another image, and you show this woman. Her name is actually Jillian Mercado. This is her words from a blog post, which is incredible. But if you were to just show the image on its own, what would your students see? What would they assume about this person?
Right, right.
Right?
And you gave me a little background about her, right?
Yeah, so she is a model and actress. She was discovered by Beyonce, and then her photos are on Times Square. She's in the show The L Word, Generation Q, like sort
Mhm.
of a spin-off of that. Um, she's blowing up. It's absolutely
The
incredible.
question is, would students see all of that in this image?
That's a question, right?
That's the
That's a
question.
question. And I just love that her,
Did I, did I go too quickly?
no, no, it's okay.
Okay.
Just that she was, proud of who she is, right?
Yes, it's very clear. The
So,
energy is
yeah,
vibing.
absolutely. So, if we sort of go, we'll start on the top left. So, and then move sort of clockwise. There are four things that I would recommend. The first is setting the stage, and then the three are ways that you can kind of steer the direction of the conversation if it goes
Mhm.
awry. So the first is to set a no outing boundary. Um, because inevitably, as I mentioned, we will have students with disabilities in our classes.
Right.
We should expect this. What we are not trying to do is tokenize anyone in the class or expect them to out themselves in
Hmm.
that way. Because it is a personal decision to share whether or not that is, by law, K-12 and higher ed, they have that right to disclose or not,
Okay.
right? And so one of our responsibilities as educators is to maintain that privacy. So what you can do ahead of time is just really set the stage. No one, this is what we're doing. We're just looking at society today. No one has to share personal, family, or medical stories to participate.
I love that.
Yeah, just there's no pressure. One day I did share with my students, I'm like, oh yeah, I just got this diagnosis of auditory processing disorder. And this student in the back is like, yo, Magister, I got that too. Like I'm like, that's cool. You didn't have to do that. That's not what I was looking for. But
Yeah.
I think setting that parameter, because I think students need structure, I think that will be good. We keep mentioning again about this inspiration or pity trope. You had just said, what's going on there? Why is this person in a wheelchair? You know, try and there's so much like one of the big no-no phrases is to say that they're bound to a wheelchair. This individual's bound to a wheelchair. No, this is a tool that gives them freedom and independence
Hmm.
and autonomy. Let's focus on what they're doing with themselves, like in their art, in this case with Jillian and her career, right?
It's like changing the focus.
Yeah, the focus. It is an extension of her.
Yes.
That's who she is. Um, she, we had mentioned about the medical versus social model. You know, if we're looking at if the image was a person in front in a wheelchair user in front of a set of stairs, you know, let's not focus on the person's body. Let's instead ask, what is going on here? Where's the
Hmm.
ramp?
Yeah.
Right? Why was that not part of the design?
Where's the accessibility?
Mhm. And then, recasting outdated vocabulary. I do think we have to be firm, but also gentle in a little bit of a way because people might just be like completely ignorant. I mean, like lowercase.
Hmm.
I have no idea, and they're at the start of the journey, right? I try to give them that space. It's the repeated things from like, hey, we need to have a conversation about this,
Right.
but let's just move forward and try to support them. So we come to then what are some things that we can do for ourselves? Here you are, if you're watching this live in the end of February, you're in the middle of
Hmm.
the second semester or the first trimester or third trimester or whatever it is. We need to start reflecting. And I really like the way you had portrayed it for the past several weeks. How does this content serve as a mirror for disabled students and a window for non-disabled students, for others?
What's cool about this is you can kind of insert different groups and then change your focus on how am I serving this group, that group. And I think it's healthy to do actually.
Yeah. And because then you realize where there's different areas you need to grow in as
Exactly.
an educator, but also more importantly as a person,
Yeah.
right?
And by the way, I wanted to say if you're watching this live, go you. It's
Yeah,
like
right.
7 o'clock on Tuesday. And well, it's no longer 7 o'clock, but it was 7 o'clock on a
Yeah,
Tuesday, and you're here. So
yeah,
we're gonna wrap this up. We may spill over just a few minutes after 8 o'clock. And yeah, that's my little insert, my little plug.
yep. So if you need to leave, please take care of yourself. This will be
Yeah.
online. You can watch the end of it.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the mirror in the window. And in terms of a commitment, you know, you can say to yourself, what is one change I will make to my next unit, my next lesson, whatever it is, to include a disabled perspective? And for me in my work, what I go back to our director of our Disability Cultural Center, Dr. Kenny. One of her big things is how can we create an abundance of accessibility, an
Hmm.
abundance, not just, oh, I did the bare minimum, right? Accessibility is the bare minimum. How do we create an abundance of accessibility? And I love that, especially in this context as well.
Yeah, because it doesn't just serve those who are disabled, it
Yeah,
serves
everyone,
everyone.
everyone can benefit. Those, the metaphorical, the literal, but also metaphorical curb cuts,
I
right?
knew you were going to say that.
Yep,
Yes.
yep, yep. Gotta love a curb cut.
Email us if you want to learn more about that.
Yep. So we have some resources for you. Um, Please, I would say, be your homework. Start thinking about what resources are already available at your school. I'm thinking in particular individuals that you can partner with.
Hmm.
If you're K-12, perhaps someone in the special education department, if you have a learning specialist, a counselor, but also administrators,
Hmm.
especially if you have a supportive administrator, but even if you have someone who's giving you pushback, there's an opportunity for partnership there,
Yeah.
especially I would say if you can get them to understand and what's going on, but also talking with other educators, I think is important.
Yeah.
If you identify as neurodivergent or disabled, finding that support as well.
Yeah.
And in general, referring to students. They are the ultimate resource. They will tell you exactly what they need.
They will.
And we often talk about them. And I think in this context, especially when we're talking about so many different identities, let's use their voices as much as we can.
Right.
So these are a bunch of resources I would call it like a starter kit, if you want to think of it that way. Leaning into disability justice, which is its own topic you can explore as well. If you're concerned about what language should I use, you can use the National Center on Disability Journalism style
Hmm.
guide. Um, but there's also some examples of if you are trying to do the research of who are individuals that we can, explore and
Right.
highlight. And, huge shout out for Brad Lomax. This is a disability advocate from in the 70s when Section 504 was getting started, a Black Panther, so interesting, amazing story. There's Jen White Johnson, the Disability Visibility Project, and also podcast they're at like 100 or 200 stories as well that you can explore. And huge shout out to the Crip Hop Institute, where it's celebrating disabled art and disabled music in particular, which is really
Thank
cool.
you so much for putting together all of these resources.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're going to be really useful. And I personally can't wait to explore some of these because I haven't read the New York Times article, and I think this would be really good.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And if again, as we mentioned, if you find stuff, send them, please.
yes, please. So I always do like to include the social justice standards because I feel like even though I usually use them in through the lens of race, ethnicity, I think that also they can be used to justify the inclusion of disability themes and images and efforts. So one is that I zoomed in on is identity. And so one, for example, is students will develop positive social identities based on their membership in multiple groups in society. That does not have to just link to what I've been talking about. This is something that can interlace into
Yeah. And then that goes throughout the entire year, right?
exactly, exactly. And it should, right? That's the, I personally believe that that is the most buy-in you're going to get from a student
Yeah.
is if you include their identity in whatever you're teaching or an
Yeah.
aspect of their identity. So
Absolutely.
that's my secret sauce. You heard it first here. All right, so Actful DEI and inclusion resources. There are a lot of affinity groups. I know you're involved with some. You started
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Um,
The special interest groups, there's, I think, a couple dozen special interest groups as well. And those all free with membership. So if you are an actual member, start taking a look at those, make use of
so
them.
much involved,
If you're
yeah.
not a member yet, talk to your administrator, get them to pay it for you. If you need us to
People are
write a
laughing at me
letter,
right now.
I know, I know. The amount of money I've had to beg for over the years.
My
But
God.
if you need support, let us know. I'm sure those of us at ACTFL will be ready to support you, and there's different
Just
resources.
raining money.
Yeah, including just writing a letter, being like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
yeah.
you should be able to do
Yeah.
this."
All right, so it's question and answer time, which you know is like towards the end of our presentation. Do you guys have any questions that we can answer? I have the chat open. I keep calling it chat, but it's really like the comments section, I guess.
Mhm.
So if you guys have any questions, just drop them there. I always go back. I don't know if you guys have noticed, I always go back like a day later or so and I comment on whatever you guys have written. So I try to loop back around. So we're a community.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna jump past this, and here's our conclusion. Would you like to take it away? Would you like me to read? What would you
Sure.
like?
Yeah, I would say it really just goes back to where we started, right?
Okay.
When we're talking about intersectionality. And this is not just a one-off thing that it was like, oh, this person is so unique and that type of thing. And like
Right.
they're not. I mean, everyone is unique, but I'm
You're
saying
just a person.
their person, their personhood matters, and that should be a part of the entire curriculum and where they're at or where we're at in the curriculum as well. And
Hmm.
so just talking about their lived experiences, um, being a disabled person and a disabled person of color, right? Also highlighting, featuring disabled Black and Afro-Latino creators in everyday units. These are things that can be done.
Yeah.
I think there is this, again, societal stigma that we tend to avoid the topic of disability.
Right.
If you go to Harvard Implicit Project, if you Google that, they have bias tests that you can do. When I took it for able-bodied versus non-able-bodied or disabled-bodied, um, I'm more I have a slight preference in terms of bias towards able-bodied people,
Right.
right? And it's not like a conscious thing. It's just the
It's the
bias.
media, it's family,
Yeah,
it's all the
society,
spheres.
culture as well. That's something else to keep in mind too. When we're talking about different cultures, each culture is going to have its own view of disability.
Right.
And so that's one extra element to keep aware of. Um, and then, yeah, please.
Sorry. Okay. I have a hard time jumping in. I'm sorry.
No, please.
All right. So I wanted to say that I think that this work for our classes is it's very, very important because I'm thinking as a Black woman, and if I go to the doctor, will I be believed as much, in terms of my symptoms as someone else? Why am I mentioning this? It's because if we normalize this for our students are the future doctors, they're the future lawyers, they're the people who will be in these positions of power. If they already have this normalized view of what it means to be disabled and have an intersectionality with race or ethnicity, then I think this is going to be just a public good.
Yeah, absolutely. And students will feel safe
Mm,
and they'll be able to just focus on the thing, which is what we want. to acquire language and become a global citizen,
Learn that language.
right? And so this last idea, I think just going back to what you're saying, right? We want to highlight agency, joy in everyday life, just highlighting the dignity of people as opposed to the deficit,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Alrighty. So more information. First, I want to let you guys know that teachersummits.com has a bunch of resources and will continue to get resources because I'm a little delayed in posting some stuff. So sorry, I'm a teacher, entrepreneur, mom. It's doing too much. I have my pen out because I am going to write down my numbers and you'll be my witness. Do not say them out loud.
I'll cover my mouth because I tend to say it out loud.
Don't
Okay.
say that loud. He's like gonna read it. Three. All right. I have faith in you.
Okay.
All right. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Every time I've done these presentations, I've been getting a couple people who sign up to follow me on YouTube. I have like 100+ videos on there. I did not realize that I was so invested in this hobby, but I really want to get to 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can get
Share
there.
widely. Share widely.
Like,
Like and subscribe.
I'll do all the things. All right. I also have an online course on Afro-Latinidad, which I felt like would be a good add-on to what we've been
Mhm.
talking about today. Reasonably priced, mini course. Get through it, learn the material. It's wonderful. It's what all the teachers want, like me. All right. Giveaway time. There are 3 giveaways. They are mysterious, mystery giveaways. And so, people putting their numbers.
That's hilarious. I see that.
Number. Wait. Okay. So this is my little book, my new little
I'll
book.
cover the chat.
Yeah, cover the chat. All right. So the first number is between 1 and 10. This is like what we do. I had to figure out something to do on the fly. So 1 to 10. I'm gonna pick a number between 1 and 10. Do you see my number?
I see it.
You didn't say it. That's good.
I really tried. I almost did.
Happy for
Thank
you.
you.
All right. The next number, the first number was between 1 and 10. Second number is between, okay, 50 and 60. So a lot of times I go in order, but you know what? I'm gonna mix it up a little bit today. I feel like a little spicy, a little neuro spicy. All right. The number is, whoa, the number is that.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
I had to cover my mouth. Oh, can I give the range for the last one?
Oh, sure. I love this.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Between
I'm
123.
gonna pick 100 and something.
Well, it's
That's really funny. Okay.
123 and 234.
Why are you trying to make it hard for the people?
Well, they're guessing. They're guessing. So
See what I
yeah, they're guessing.
did? Okay.
They're guessing.
120. I'm so excited. 123 and 234. Okay, what's my number?
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Good.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go back in the what do you call it? The chat, like tomorrow.
Mhm.
And I will email you or I'll message you and let you know to email me that you got. Okay. And it's the people who are closest.
Yep.
All right. Oh, okay. Yeah. You're moving on to me. Thanks.
So if you want to reach out to me, feel free to. You can probably the best way is just my email, wesleyjwood@gmail.com. If you have any questions, I'm happy to speak with you about it. But also, if you want to have me consult with your school, or you just want to go over curriculum and things, I've done all these things in the past, or
He's
just
good.
yeah, just let me know. This is something I'm really passionate about, and ultimately, like I said, you are the expert of your experience. I'm here to just give you some context.
So, I have a lot of channels that I manage, and my favorite one is Instagram. So, if you have any questions, just feel free to send me a message on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. These are all the handles. And I have a website called theculturalclassroom.blog, and there's a lot of yay! There's a lot of blogs on there. There's a lot of information, freebies, all sorts of things. As soon as you get to the page, it's like, do you want my whole treasure chest of resources? So, also, I have a TPT site which has I don't know, 150 or plus resources, paid and free, that you can access to enhance your classroom. All right, so I say gracias
I say,
because I speak Spanish, sorry.
I say, plurimas gratias vobis ago. The Latin is always over the top. It's just what you do.
For the top, like,
It's
why are you
true.
doing too much?
We can't help it.
I hope that you guys had a great evening with us and all the technical difficulties. Um, Gracias.